Hello, Aubrey. How's it going today?
I'm great, Lindsay. How are you?
I am so good. I have a question for you.
Ooh, let's hear it.
So, do you tend to get into little arguments over things that are not really that important?
No, actually, I do not like confrontation. So I
Okay.
avoid confrontation. I'm a peacemaker. So if
Ah,
something's small, whether that's with my partner or with friends, I just let it go.
you let it
I don't
go.
let it bother me. I'm not going to get into an argument. It has to be a really big deal. I pick my battles,
You
as they
pick your
say, where
battles.
it's going to be a really big deal before I start an argument or a discussion or a fight about something. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm similar. I am not a drama person. I'm not good at confrontation. I don't do well. Like, I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to do it in like an assertive way. So I do
Mm,
avoid it too. I also, and I think we saw that in your strengths finder, right, Aubrey? When we did our
yep.
strengths finder quizzes, we learned that about you, the peacemaker, right? It is an
Yeah, it was
archetype.
called woo, which was funny. And it was
Woo.
saying that like very few people have the strength woo, which is an
Yes.
interesting word that means you're trying to convince people to your side. You like to woo people. But it was really
Interesting.
interesting because it talked about how people who have woo are peacemakers. They like
Okay.
want everyone to like them,
I love
which is so
it.
me. They
I
don't want
love
to
it.
create any friction.
Interesting. Okay, so that's good to know. I love that. I mean, today we're getting into this topic of, little arguments and little things that are, yeah, just they don't have big repercussions in life, right? Little details, little minutia, just as a little hint for our
Exactly. Yeah, we
listeners.
had a really great question about this.
Mhm.
Kadir from Turkey was asking, and I'm going to go ahead and read this because it's
Okay.
a really great question.
Okay.
He said, "There's no point in arguing over trifles." He said, "In that sentence, I know the word trifle means something unimportant or not valuable, but when I'm writing an essay or a formal letter, I'd rather not use it since it sounds old fashioned to me. What I'm
Mm.
looking for is a word that has the same meaning, but is more up to date." I think this is very insightful of
Yes.
Kadir because it is a little old fashioned. I know what that means. I have heard it before, maybe in older movies, maybe my
Yeah.
grandparents say it, but it is a little old fashioned. You don't hear it very often said commonly. Wouldn't you agree, Lindsay?
Yeah, and Kadir's fantastic. Kadir has been one of our listeners for, oh my gosh, I think 5 years. So thank you to Kadir for sending us this question. Guys,
Love
if
it.
if you have more questions for the show, send them to Lindsay at allearsenglish.com. We want your questions because that's what makes the best episodes, right, Aubrey?
Yes, it's so true. You guys have such good insight as you're out in the world speaking English, hearing idioms, maybe in old movies, and wondering, do people still use this? Right. So
Yeah.
let's first dive into the meanings of the word trifle, because you guys will hear that word and it has a few different meanings. The first
Yeah.
is the one Kadir is talking about, something that's of very little value. You
Yep.
will hear that, like, don't bother her with such trifles, but it is
Yes.
a little old fashioned.
Yeah, this isn't it is I guess it must be old fashioned honestly because it's not in my vocabulary. I
Oh,
think of
you haven't heard
truffle.
it at
I think
all.
of the dessert.
Yes, right. That's the other. Do you like trifle? Guys, trifle is a sponge cake dessert that has layers of like custard and
Okay.
cream or maybe cream cheese, fruit. It's delicious.
Okay, I got confused just there. I meant truffle like the dessert
Oh,
or
that's
the
different.
mushroom and I
Oh,
don't know.
that's funny.
All
No,
these
those are
other things.
truffles.
Truffle,
Yeah, this is
trifle.
trifle, guys, spelled Trifle. You definitely want
Okay,
to
good.
download the app so you can get all this good
Yes.
vocab today. But yeah, it's a layered dessert. They usually do it in glass. It'll almost look like a punch bowl
Oh,
that has
yum.
this layered dessert in it with beautiful layers of sponge cake and fruit. We
Oh
actually
my
had one
gosh.
recently that my sister-in-law has a German exchange student, a 17-year-old girl who's doing a year of high school stay and living at their home.
Right.
And she made the most delicious trifle I've ever had. It had cream cheese and was so flavorful. She said her mom makes it all the time in
That
Germany
sounds
to
insane.
die for. Yes. And it was like raspberry. It was like raspberry trifle with, oh my heck, it was delicious.
Oh wow. The sugar, right? You shared with
So
us
much
before you love
sugar.
sugar and I
I
love it
love it.
too. I can't resist a good dessert. So now I'm feeling kind of hungry. So we better
Yeah.
finish up this episode and move through
So you can
it.
go make a trifle. So there's
Oh,
one
great.
other way to use
Yeah.
it, and it's a verb, which means to treat something without seriousness, where you'd say, she is not a teacher to be trifled with, or don't
Oh,
trifle with that. It's not important. So it's a very high level, interesting verb. You will hear it. It's
okay.
not used super commonly, but I definitely hear it. I like this
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. I love it. So, guys, that is the word trifle. And our part of our role here in All Ears English is to show you what words are out of date What words are going to
Yep.
make you sound like you come from the 1600s?
Right. Exactly.
And what words are going to make you like, what do words mean? What do they say about you when you use them? So Aubrey, we have some other options for Kadir today, right?
Yes, exactly. Because it's a little old fashioned to say, don't argue over trifles, but you do want to talk to this. If someone starts arguing with you about something that really isn't important, this is a good thing to be able to say.
Yes.
So one thing that I would say is maybe those details are trivial, meaning they really aren't important, right? If we're having a discussion and someone's really arguing about little things, I could say, I feel like those details are really trivial. That's not what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, this is what I always say about trivia when I can't get the answer. Oh, it's trivial. Who cares? I don't need to know that.
I would like that's very punny. That's a good play on words. That's trivial.
It's trivial. I don't care. So that's the first one, guys. And we definitely, so now we're giving you the ones, guys, that you should 100% write down. You'll see them in the app and you should use these. Don't use trifle. It's too old, but use trivial. The next one I love. And for a long time, I didn't know how to pronounce this. I have to admit, until
I
like
think a lot of native speakers don't. They see this written and they're like, so yeah, the words minutia. How do you say minutia or minutia?
I say minutia.
Okay, I've heard both.
But
minutia, I think I hear more often with that soft I, minutia.
Yeah. If you guys are not in the app, you're not going to get a chance to see this, or if you don't have the transcripts. But just so our listeners know, Aubrey, how do we spell this word?
Yes, it's spelled minutie. So it's kind of a strange looking word. It's hard to know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And what's really tricky is the plural, which is actually sounds the same, minutia, but without the E. minutia is the plural. I did not know that. It breaks all the English rules.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm learning a lot from you, Aubrey, on this show. I did not even know.
I love it.
I thought that was both plural and singular. I'm not sure what I thought, but now we're learning. This is good. So minutia.
So again, this just means small, precise, trivial details about something. Yep. So I've often heard it used in the phrase, let's not argue over this minutia, because we use it most specifically about that when someone's sort of bringing up details that are too trivial, right? They're too insignificant. Be like, now you're just arguing about minutia.
Yeah. But Aubrey, are you someone that likes to hang out in the details, or are you more of a big picture thinker? Because I know people in my life who can stay big picture, and when they see details, they say someone else can deal with that. But I struggle with that. How are you?
That's a good question. I probably am more of a worrying about the minutia person. Okay. I think my personality, I'm good at tackling all the small details or something, and I sort of need someone else to see the big picture and give me that vision. I'm willing to admit that about myself. That's why I have you, Lindsay.
Yeah. I love visions. I love big pictures, and I want to be there. I want to dwell in that world all the time as like a dreamer. But sometimes the details hook me and I get hooked. And that's when I'm not my best self, is when I get pulled down into the details. Yeah.
Because that's where you can spend so much time, right? All of the minutia can really take the time to figure out all the little things. That's a good point.
So for our listeners, guys, I mean, we can talk about this at the end, but think about, where are you at on the spectrum? Are you a big picture thinker? Do you want to dwell in the visions, the big ideas, the big pictures, or do you do best in the details, in the minutia? You should know that about yourself and your role at work, right, Aubrey? That really matters.
For sure. And neither is wrong, right? But you want to be able to speak to that as well. If you're in an interview and someone's asking you about your strengths, you want to be aware of what they are and be able to highlight how that makes you a good fit.
Yes, 100%. And know the role that you're interviewing for, and make sure that your way of thinking makes sense for that role. Right?
Totally. Yep, for sure. Okay, we have one more. This is a really fun idiom, splitting hairs, which means to argue about something trivial or unimportant. This actually came up the other day with my twins. Okay. They had this friend that they wanted to buy them hats. They were talking about how their friend was going to buy them hats at school. They were doing like a fundraiser, and you could buy these Dr. Seuss hats at school that are really tall and colorful. That's so cute. And I said, I don't want you to ask him to spend his money on you. And they said, it's not his money, it's his mom's money. And I said, you're really splitting hairs there. They were like, what does that mean?
Yeah, you use that phrase with your 6-year-old.
I knew they wouldn't know what it meant, but I was like, this is perfect. I will
That's
teach you this idiom here.
I love that. And were they able to like get it when you taught it to them, or did
Yeah, they got it.
translate?
I made it really visual for them. So I said, imagine, I was like, take
Mm,
one of your hairs,
right. One
and
little
imagine
hair.
splitting it, And so they were like, okay,
Yes.
we understand. I was like, you're arguing about a detail that doesn't matter, whether it's his money or his mom's money.
I love
Don't
it.
ask him to spend money on you, please.
That's so good. That's so good. All right. I love it. So splitting hairs,
I
right?
think we talk about this a lot with lawyers, politicians, right? If they're
Oh,
taking an argument and instead of really talking about what's important, they're splitting hairs by talking
oh,
about details that aren't really significant.
oh gosh. Lawyers drive me nuts
I
sometimes.
know,
Working with
right?
lawyers. Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah,
I can't help but
absolutely.
think about this phrase. Bill Clinton's really famous for this quote when he said, it depends on what the meaning of the word is. That is
Oh,
splitting hairs.
is that a famous quote? Okay. What was he
Yes, you
talking
haven't
about in
heard
that quote?
that? This
No,
was about the Monica Lewinsky trial.
of
So,
course.
and yeah, he was,
No.
trying to make excuses. And then he said this very famous phrase because everyone's rolling their eyes about that. Like, really?
Okay.
You're splitting hairs about the definition of the word is?
Oh yeah, he
What?
looked like a fool on in that trial. The only
Oh,
quote
so
that I
bad.
think of with him is "It's the economy, stupid." Maybe that's not Bill Clinton. That might be
Oh,
someone
I
else
don't know.
actually. But anyways, yeah. So the Monica Lewinsky trial was quite a drama, guys. You can read about
Mhm.
it from the '90s, but we like to forget some things,
Yeah,
right?
it's funny though. It was interesting because I was in Europe right after that happened, I think it was. And a lot of people would ask me about it because they thought it was so foolish of Americans to be
Yes.
so bothered by it because their leaders often have mistresses and they're
Affairs.
like out and
Yeah.
proud about it and no one cares, right? It's so cultural. It's such a different culture. Whereas in the United States, we're like, how dare he have a mistress?
Yeah, and actually that would make another great episode. We should do an episode on that. It's
That'd be
kind of
fun.
like cultural norms and rules in American culture about
Mm.
about affairs or about what we expect our politicians to be and do and how we expect them to live. It's really cultural and different between Europe
Yeah.
and the US
Oh, yeah.
completely. The
And I'd be really
expectations.
curious how it is in other cultures. I know Europe a little bit,
Yes.
but a lot of cultures I don't know. I
I
don't know
know
if they
South
would care.
America, Asian
Interesting.
cultures, very
Mm.
interesting. So, guys, make sure you hit follow on this show to get these great topics. It's a lot of good stuff is going to be coming up in the next couple months, right, Aubrey?
Yes, for sure. Okay, we have a fun role play here where Lindsay and I are roommates and we're divvying up household chores. This is a
Yes.
fun verb, divvy. What does that mean, Lindsay?
Divvy up. So it comes from divide, I guess, right? Divide up
Yep.
and share, divvy up. But guys, this is natural and real slang. So good stuff.
Yes. And
Okay.
again, make sure you have the app because this word is spelled so weird. It's Divvy.
VVY.
I don't know if there's any other words where there's a double V, like
Yeah.
divvy.
Who
It's
would think
strange.
it would be double V? That makes no sense, but we'll go
Why
with
is
it.
it? It makes no sense. English, guys. I'm so sorry. I apologize on behalf of the English language. It's so weird. Okay, let's go here. I'm going to start us out. I know it's annoying to have to deal with this minutia, but we're both so busy. So it'll help if chores are assigned.
For sure. It seems trivial to have a tidy house, but I can't relax if there's clutter around.
I know I'm really messy, so I'll try to work on that.
Yeah, you do your dishes maybe 10% of the time.
I'd say at least 15% of the time.
That's definitely splitting hairs. Yeah, 10, 15.
I love this passive aggressive role play where you're trying to say, like, you do not clean up after yourself. I'm like, I do sometimes.
Oh, give me memories of the days of having roommates in New York.
Oof,
yes.
so bad. I know. Roommates in college. I had some terrible experiences.
It can be really tricky. It could be really tricky.
Funny. All right, guys. These
Okay.
are such fun phrases.
Mhm.
Definitely better to use. Not outdated. You'll hear these all the time, but also really high level to say minutia, to know what
Yes.
that means and throw that into conversation, or divvy.
Super high
These
level.
are really great high level words.
Exactly. And just to go back and share real quick for our listeners,
Yeah.
you said first, I know it's annoying to have to deal with this minutia, but we're both so busy, right? So it'll help if chores are assigned. So here
Yeah.
you're saying it's hard to deal with these details, minutia. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
And you said it seems trivial to have a tidy house, right? It seems like unimportant, maybe not necessary, but you're just explaining, but I can't relax without it. So it is important to me.
Yeah, I do feel that way sometimes. If I want to focus on my work, I have to have a Zen room. Like I have to
Right?
have things
Tidy
cleaned
up
up.
first.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the last thing you're talking about the difference between 10% and 15% of the time you clean your dishes. And I say that's definitely splitting hairs, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, you're avoiding the actual argument here, talking about the tiny change in the percentage. This is a great example of splitting hairs, right? You're
Exactly.
talking about something that doesn't matter.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So what's the takeaway for our listeners, Aubrey?
Yeah, some phrases do go out of fashion. This is a great podcast to be listening to find out which those are, and send in your questions if you have any doubt, like arguing
Yes.
over trifles. It is outdated. So keep
Right.
up with new and native ways to say something so that you can build those connections in English. So like you said, Lindsay, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast.
Exactly. And then don't forget, guys, think about the way that you think as a professional. Are you detail oriented or are you a big picture visionary? Right. So, because that's going to determine your career choice and where you should go within a company in terms of your role. So, take a little time to think about that and get a little insight. I love this idea of understanding ourselves at work,
Yes.
Aubrey.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. You need to have thought about that before an interview, before you start at a job. Have a good, clear understanding of what your strengths are. And if you're a big picture thinker, or you're better at diving in
Minutia.
and getting some tasks done, better at
Yeah.
the minutia.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks for hanging out today, Aubrey. I'll see you very soon.
Yep. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.